Welcome to another episode of DEGN Talk. Today, I have a very, very, very special guest. Have been trying to get this podcast done for weeks. And let's welcome Chris from Plume Network.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jack. Appreciate it, and looking forward to getting into it today.
Awesome, awesome. So, Chris, tell me about yourself and Plume.
Yeah, totally. Look, very quickly, I'm Chris. I'm one of the co-founders of Plume and the CEO. And look, Plume, what we're building here is we're building a network, an ecosystem, and a chain focused on making it easy for users in crypto to interact with the real world. Right? Meaning we bring real things on chain. We mix them with crypto native things. We make it easy for the end user in crypto to interact with them, meaning we turn the real world into tokens. We fit them into crypto native experiences, things like swap, stake, lend, borrow, whatever, right? And we really want to blur the lines between the crypto and the real world, right? We think that, look, the token is a superior format to hold things in, right? And by doing this and bringing this to crypto, we can create a new world in which crypto and the real world all blend together. We create new things, create new primitives, right? And ultimately really grow crypto. We grow the size, we grow the impact, we grow the types of assets, we grow new use cases, and ultimately new dollars and capital into the ecosystem. And so, we think this is an important story for crypto and for the world in general, right? Which is, I think there's a lot of value from taking assets and bringing them on chain. But more importantly, we think that the crypto world, right, there's still a long way to go. Right, we've seen a lot of things happen over the last 10 years in this game, right? But there's so much more, right? The exciting story is very simple. Crypto is $3 trillion asset class today, right? Every subsector of RWAs is multiple hundreds of trillions of dollars. And so if we can begin to bring that stuff on chain and bring the whole world into one network and one ecosystem where we can move around and do things in a permissionless way, it's going to unlock a lot of magic. And I think we'll create a new world that's much better and much more exciting as well. So that's what we're focused on today. I've been doing this for a little bit now. We've kind of got going, back when things were kind of bad, right? And really the idea sprung out with my co-founders. We were kind of talking about crypto and talking about what was going on at the time. And we felt that it was a very simple story. We were doing a lot of micro optimization DeFi at the time. We were sort of taking a lot of the same things, putting them onto new chains, right? Finding new novel ways to lever up and do the kind of the same nonsense. But ultimately, we weren't growing crypto, right? And we just think that this technology has a tremendous amount of potential, a lot of power, right? A lot that we can do with it. And if we built a casino, great. I like gambling too. It's all good, right? But we can do much more. So we just wanted to really focus on how do we grow crypto? How do we do this? And that's why you'll see in how we build Plume and how we build our ecosystem, and everything, that's the initial and the ultimate job that we are trying to do. We want to grow crypto and as a result, grow Plume. Whereas many things are just trying to grow their own little world. We want to grow all of this because we think that, there's so much to do here, and to me, this is one of those areas that has a long runway in front of it, right? And we have 10 years of work easily to make this work, and it's going to be one of those things where it starts slow and it comes very fast when it happens, right? So anyway, I'll stop there, but that's a short story about Bloom.
I think it's beautiful because after years of working in the space as well, I came to realize if there's a project that can able to combine Web 2 and Web 3, that would be the way to go because Web 3, let's be honest, we need the Web 2 liquidity and stuff, right?
For
And
sure,
I think Plume is
100%.
kind of 100% bridging that, at this point. Let's go back. What has your journey been in crypto that inspired you to build Plume?
Totally. I come from like a Web 2 world, right? That's my background. I was kind of doing, I've been a founder for multiple different companies, but I started off doing more Web 2 software. And we did kind of enterprise financial softwares. Out of school, we ended up building a bunch of stuff, right? My first company, we ended up doing all kinds of, like all the shitty ideas you do in college, right? You do things like, all the real hard problems, food delivery, right? Dating, homework help, all that kind of nonsense, right? And at some point we realized that, look, we should focus on things that, if we're going to die, like if no one's going to use this stuff, let's at least build something that we would use. Right. If we have one user, but that user is me, that's okay. At least we have one user. Right. And then we sort of shifted to, okay, let's help manage the business. We were terrible at managing the business at the time because we were just kids. And so we built accounting software, we built financial software, we built tools to automate our lives. And, big surprise, when you build something that you want to use, it ends up being better and it starts to work. So we put it in the app store and it took off, right? And we ended up, getting a lot of offers, a lot of customers, a lot of users, and very quickly we ended up selling the company. And so we were able to, excuse me, we were able to very quickly sell the company from there. And then I went to another company called Cooper. I was running product management there. We ended up growing the company very quickly in 3 years, took it public, and saw the growth and everything from there. So that was kind of the big focus for us, right? Is kind of where I learned, how to run a company and how things worked and all that. But how I got into crypto after that was after that I took off. One day we had a big team, was doing product management and I hated it, and I wanted to get back to startup life, and so I took off, and I ended up hanging out with a couple of friends, and a friend of mine asked me to kind of help him run product at his company. And it was a Web2 company, but it's called Rainforest. And what we did was it was like Immunify, right? But focused on QA. You had a distributed community around the world, right? So when you push a button or hit an API, a bunch of people come mobilize and test your website, test your software. And it was kind of two things I learned from there. Number one was the power of the community and the ecosystem, and how important that was. Because for that, the product was really the team and the community, right? And so we built a bunch of tools to automate that and everything. The second thing is when we began to talk to the community, right? The first thing they said was this. We said, look, you guys are super valuable. It's important for the business for us to know you guys and everything. What do you want? Right? And they all said the same thing. Right? They said, look, this is great. We like working with Rainforest, but the problem is you keep making me off ramp into my shitty native currency. And so whether it was in Latin America, Eastern Europe, Africa, wherever it might be, they're like, look, I'd rather hold BTC and ETH. Can you just build that? So okay, cool, we'll do that.
Mm.
So that's kind of where I started watching and pay attention and getting sucked into it. And right around the time was DeFi summer.
Mhm.
And so, yield farming and staking and all this kind of stuff kind of came into it at once. And so I just kind of got lost and caught up into it. And then right around the same time, we really had an explosion in all the kind of nonsense that we got into it. I was, one of the, I was using anything, I got into, all the Ohm stuff and all the Ohm forks, right? And like, just playing a lot of the different games out there. And it was just a ton of fun. And I think once you do that, you can't do anything else. And so I was, doing my regular job and doing these things, but we realized very quickly that again, there was a lot of power in this permissionless access and permissionless innovation. Anyone can build anything, and that creates a lot of crazy stuff in good
You can
ways
just
and
do
bad
shit.
ways.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can just do things, and that's a powerful thing. And in the real world, you can't. Right? In the real world, everything is gated up. You cannot build a new bridge. You can't build new beds. You can't fix things. Everything is guarded up. And that's why the real world sucks. Right? Because you can't change to make things better. That's why all the innovation has been pushed to software. Right? Because in software, anybody can make it better. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are, smart, bad, ugly, rich, poor, doesn't matter. You can build anything and do whatever you want, right? And that has made things better because it just creates a force to improve things. That doesn't have that order. And so for us, this idea is very simple. Let's turn the real world into a format that can be molded and changed by software, right? And the token is a great way to do that. And the blockchain is the only way to do this today because you can actually make sure that when you click buttons on the screen now, it actually is tied to the real world, right? And there's some ownership behind it. So that's the important thing here. But that's how we kind of got into this whole thing.
Wow, amazing. I mean, having something virtual, linking it to something very tangible, very real, is an innovation. It's a very difficult innovation as well, which, I would love to know more. Like, what is the focus at Plume right now? I know you've mentioned that you touched upon that earlier. And what is the biggest challenge right now moving forward in realizing this vision?
Yeah, I think the tricky thing is this market is because it's in between two things, right? We're in between the real world and between crypto. You have to balance both.
You're like two worlds kind of, do you know what I mean? Like
That's
you're
right.
here,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Exactly. And that's the tricky thing. You have to talk to both people at once. You have to understand how to play both sides and how to make sure everyone understands it and bring these two
Both
things
have different
together.
rules,
And they
right?
don't care about each other at all, like in fact, that these people are like, oh, you tradfi old people, you suck, and the trad people are like, oh, you guys are scammers and all that. So you have to kind of blend these two worlds together and educate and like figure this out, right? There's clearly demand and interest to put this stuff together, but it's a heavy education game, because RWAs, look, let's be super clear, RWAs, even the name sucks, it's boring as shit. Nobody gives a fuck about real world assets. It just sounds stupid. I don't even like hearing about it, and I work in this all day, right? So there's a real branding issue, there's a real perception issue, there's a real story issue, because not only is the branding bad, but because, especially in art, especially in like in crypto, right? All the great stuff comes from random people doing random things. That's a lot of greatness comes there. But when you interact with the real world sucks a lot of times. And so it's very hard to go like deal with a bank or go deal with these things when I could just like, look, I just do some LRT stuff or do some LST stuff, right? And I can like quickly get a bunch of liquidity and begin to innovate and build stuff. It's faster. That's what we want in crypto, right? We all have a very special form of ADHD. We have to keep moving, right?
Yeah.
And so, the problem with that is because of all the barriers and gateways in RWAs, it prevents and limits the amount of entrepreneurs that comes into this thing and the types of people that want to get into this, right? And so when it comes to that, ultimately, that slows the world down, right? And it's adverse selection problem. So we have to really change the story around RWAs, help people clarify what's going on about what's happening, right? I saw a tweet the other day. It said institutional dollars are here, right? Institutional capitals arrive. It's all going to work, right? It's bullshit. It's not here, right? I know I raised money from all of them, right? We talked to all the guys out there. It's beginning to happen. It's coming through now, but it is not here yet, right? We're just starting. right? And really, it's the buy side, it's the sell side, excuse me, that's coming on, not the buy side, right? So Larry Fink is coming here to dump his assets on us, and he's dumping his bags on us, not the other way around, right? And so people just don't understand these things yet because we see a big institutional asset manager like BlackRock, who has $12 trillion, and we think that by bringing this into crypto, right, everything's going to go up and we're all going to get rich, right? But Larry Fink is not buying Farcoin, right? It's not happening, right? He's dumping his bags on us. So we have to just understand the dynamics of the game and clarify the story so people really know, so we can both attract users, but builders as well, right? And then also make sure that we help educate the TradFi folks to kind of do this right? Because they don't understand either, right? And they want to. But if we approach them with animosity, right, or we don't tell them what to do and we just like cave to them because they have a lot of money, right? All these things lead to bad products and lead to problems. And so that to me is the tricky thing right now. I think the roadmap in front of us is incredibly clear, product wise and execution wise, ecosystem. We're focused on ecosystem community building this whole world, right? But the problem is, and the thing that's a big limiting factor is the message, is the story. Most people do not know anything about RWAs today. Most people still don't get it, and the message that's being told is very messy. It sucks. So we have to
Yeah.
fix that first because that's the front door to all of this stuff.
Education, getting people to understand what it is, getting
Yep,
traditional people to understand our world, getting our world to understand the traditional world. I think that's probably the crossover that really needs to be kind of blended, right, before we
100%.
actually move forward. Notice the hat and the amazing shirt, by the way, the jacket, great. So I'm going to touch upon that. So congratulations on the investment from Binance.
Yeah,
How
thanks.
does that impact Plume moving forward?
Yeah, in many like there's two sides of it, right? With everything, it's both, as with any investment, right? It's both it impacts us not at all and also a lot, right? On the it doesn't impact us at all. At the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, the future's in our control. It's in our hands. It's up to us to build, right? Nothing fundamentally changes, right? So from that perspective, nothing has changed, right? We continue to do our thing, one foot in front of the other. We keep marching and building. That's the one part, right? On the other side of things, what has changed a lot, right, is, I think one, it's great for our for brand and for just like getting more exposure out there, right, and just having more people know what Plume is and know the story. And again, it's part of that message and education. So having a big microphone that is that is the YZI folks and Binance and all that, like, is a big positive for us, right? And the second is also having access from, there's a bunch of great portfolio companies also been in the YZI portfolio, the Binance Live portfolio. So like getting to learn from them, getting to interact with them, getting to sort of like work together and see what things are, right? It's still the biggest exchange in the world by a huge margin, right? And so, getting to learn from them and interact and, just kind of understand and see where people are building, like that's a huge part. And also, of course, it's a big story about Asia for us, right? We are an American-based company. We have a lot of American-based investment, American team, but we also have a lot of folks in Asia, right? And it's really, I think signaling that we care a lot about this, about Asia, right? It's a huge part of the world, obviously, right? Both people, but dollars, but impact, right? It's growing, and we really want to make sure we do more there. And so I think it's just it's an important sort of message and signal for us. So that's kind of what I think.
Awesome. And I'm happy to be part of the educational kind of outlet, right? I mean, part of
Yes.
you being on, I hope can get people to know more about Plume, to know more about the mission, right? To know more about well, I would say a new world that Plume is trying to create, right? A world that kind of combines two worlds, very different worlds together, right?
Yes, totally, totally.
Yeah, so what's in store for your community and your general roadmap for the next 6 to 12 months for Plume?
Yep, totally. So a few things. Maybe I'll start with kind of like where this is going, right? And then we can kind of lay out how we get there. So starting with this, when most people think about RWAs, they think a lot about TradFi, they think about banks, they think about institutions, they think about things that are hard to interact with and things that like are less applicable in a day-to-day life, right? So that's a starting point. Now, a simple example is a lot of people think you're taking Wall Street or taking a financial district or taking and putting that on chain, putting your bank on chain. That's what people think of real world assets, right? That's the wrong view, in my opinion, right? To me, that's carbon copying the real world and carbon copying the exact same thing and putting it into a new ecosystem, right? That's not how it works. When you move things into a new technology paradigm, right, we want to change it so it fits the new world better, right? And then new things come out, you have new experiences, new features, new capabilities you couldn't do before, right? Just like for the mobile phone. When you had the cell phone, right, you could do new things you couldn't do on the desktop, right? Because you had location, you had push notifications, all these things together. So now I can use Uber, right, and call a car. And I couldn't do this on the web before. That's the thing, right? You're still using a lot of fundamental things that are native to the internet, but it's different. So what is happening with us, right? When I think about Plume, what do we really want to do, right? Ultimately, we're not building Wall Street 2.0. I'm not taking a bank and putting it on chain. right? What we're trying to do is rebuild and build this new world. To me, it's more like Farmville or Animal Crossing, right? Or The Sims, where you can visualize this world that you're building, right? And you click buttons and things happen, right? In Animal Crossing on farm, right? You click buttons, you can build a house, right? You can build a farm, you can build a garden, right? You can start to, farm and earn some money and do some different things. You could trade with other people, right? That's what happens. But in Animal Crossing, it's all digital, right?
Mm.
When you click buttons, you just create new pixels, right? For us, with the power of the blockchain, with the power of Plume, with the power of crypto, we can take these things that you just click buttons with, and it actually ties to the real world, right? And so that way, when I actually click these buttons and I'm building the exact same thing, I'm owning a building, I own a farm here, I'm like interacting with this and this and this and this, right? I own a bunch of gold or whatever. It's actually a real thing that I own somewhere, and I can actually prove that it's mine. It's verifiable. It's all those types of things, right? And so I think that's a story. That's what we're trying to build, right? And so if you think about that, how do you get there, right? Number one, right? We need to turn the real world into tokens, right? So we launched the chain, we launched the network very soon. It's coming out, any day now, right? What that does is it's a product that then takes things in the world and converts them into tokens, right? That's the first thing, right? And when we say everything, I mean everything. People think about RWAs as like, treasuries today, because that's a lot of what it is. We do everything. We have Pokemon cards, we have watches, wine, whiskey, all the way to things like financial instruments, right? We have T-bills. I've got corporate debt, sovereign debt from the biggest financial institutions in the world, Apollo, the BlackRock stuff, all of that, right? And everything in the middle, right? Gold, uranium, solar, oil, real estate, all these. Yeah, exactly. It's all these things together, right? You should be able to move in around and do what you have to do, right? And that's the story that we're building here. So number one is take the real world and turn things into tokens. Number two is once everything is a token, right? You want to then pull in crypto because now these things blend together, right? Once everything is a token, the real world asset plus a crypto, there's no difference. We're just
Yeah.
tokens at this point, right? And so now you can mix and match. Right. And now you can create new financial tools, new instruments, and you can introduce the other things. You can go for memes. You can hold, when the world's up, you can hold Fort coin. When the world goes down, you want to change, you can rotate into oil, right? And have print cash owning an oil well, right? Or hold a bunch of gold bars just by clicking buttons. And so that's the world that we're doing. And so when we think about what's coming up, number one, launching mainnet and launching a bunch of these protocols. We have so many protocols that are working with us, that are building us. We want to get that out there, get that into people's hands. Number
Mm.
two is then begin to build new tools and introduce new stuff to combine these things in new ways together to create net new products. And what that's going to do is they'll take our institutional backers and the institutional asset managers that are working with us. They can introduce new products and build new things. The institutional buyers that are working with us can now become, because now they want to come and get involved because there's a new product here you couldn't get before, right? If you have a structured product that's a mixture of T-bills and gold and some high duration private credit, some high yielding private credit asset, plus you get maybe ETH staking yield, right? Maybe you're getting some BTC points because you're earning that too. And you package that into one thing. And it's audited. That's a new product that you can get some net new money in and bring
Yeah.
someone in for that. To me, that's where we're going. So number one, build the ecosystem, build the community. Number two, allow that as the basis to really bring a lot of net new things in.
Would love to know if there's any alphas up and coming from Plume, any campaigns for your users, for the community.
Totally. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff coming up. My marketing team will kill me if I tell you too much, if I say too many things, and I'll probably get it wrong. But I will say this: look, the mainnet's coming soon, right? Along with mainnet is a big campaign, both in coordination with different wallets, and so things like we've already done some with like Binance Web3 wallet, with the OKX wallet, things like that as well, right? But also directly with our community,
Mm.
in which you can come here, explore the ecosystem, get points, right, and accrue value, right, and begin to play around with the tools and the products here in the ecosystem, right, and get everything out there. And so that's a bunch coming very soon. So I'd like stay tuned as well, right, because every time we're going to do this thing in tandem and in pieces. And so we have a group of dApps that come, help explore, play around with them, right, and then have the second batch come in and new points come in and everything. And so really, again, we're very focused on the community and making sure that the community builds this thing with us. We'll have a big campaign and a bunch of programs around this kind of stuff very soon that we're excited to share.
Let's move on to your own personal views. What are your views on the current market with the resurgence of things like AI and memes? I would just go all out, man. I want to hear everything you have to say.
Yeah. Look, I think the market is absolutely shit right now. It's terrible. You wake up, the chart's bad, price is bad, it feels bad, and everything's terrible, and we really thought that, with Trump in office, we'd be up only. And that's just not been the case. It's actually been down only. It's been terrible. And look, I'm still a believer. I think structurally, there's no way crypto goes down, in the midterm. That doesn't mean there's not a lot of pain right now. So that's kind of what it is, right? And I think because of that, the market is searching for truth. They're searching for things to do, right? And so I'm excited, I'm very excited about a lot of things around AI, right? I think there's a lot of potential there. I think, I like, people love to shit on meme coins. They think it's like nihilistic and it's bad. I love meme coins and I think it's great, and I think there's a lot more to do there. And I think it's another, like, I think all these, and people, a lot of people say with meme coins, like, oh, it's like a bad entry point. People come with meme coins, they get shit on, they lose, they leave, right? And they have a bad view and impression of crypto. I just don't think that's true at all. Like at the end of the day, we are trying to grow crypto. It's very small today. There's not many doors in. Centralized exchange, Bitcoin, that's probably like one place. Number two is, like holding stables as a payment method in an emerging or holding the US dollar. And number three is meme coins, right? So to me, the more doors, the better. And all of those are different users and different types of things and different types of people. So the more doors in, the better. And I think the person that's coming in to full port into Farcoin, right, is just not the same person that's like slowly building a BTC position. Like these are different people, right? And so I'm very positive on all this stuff. And I think, meme coins, despite what happens, sometimes good, sometimes bad, right? It's fun, it's playful, it's creative, it creates stories, it's great for everything. So I'm so bullish on everything that's going on, right? I think ZK is going to have a moment, right? I think TLS and all this stuff is super interesting, right? I think like it's finally getting cheap, infrastructure's getting good, and we're going to move away. Like we're still in an infrastructure world, you know. We're still in L1, L2 land, right, and all that kind of stuff, right? But chain abstraction is starting to happen. Right, we put Plume on Solana the other day, right? So now you can buy and trade Plume on Solana, right? That's not something you would be able to do, but through layer zero. And so we can finally, like, this cross chain stuff is finally happening. Account abstraction is finally happening, and all the things we're talking about are finally here, right? In crypto is one of the things, like, the days are long and the years are short. We've been talking about this shit forever, you know, and like it feels like it's at some point like is it ever fucking happening, or is it just bullshit, and now it's like, okay, it's actually starting to happen, but now we're all so cynical, price is bad, we're like, god, everything sucks, it's not real, but it's actually happening in front of us. So like I couldn't be more bullish in the midterm. I'm actually positive of everything, right? And I think stables as a number, huge, it's going to be an insane product. It's already an insane product, right? And so I'm bullish on everything, but yeah, for right now, like everything sucks, and the market's terrible, and like it all feels bad.
It's only a pothole on a
Yes,
long road, right? We're just
100%.
on that road, man. Like the faster we go, a pothole would affect us more, right? Just like driving a
Totally.
car, right? The
They're just
faster
trying
we
to shake
go,
you out right now, dude. You just can't let them
yeah,
take your coins. That's all
yeah.
it is, dude.
If a car breaks down at like a pothole, then that like that's on you, man.
Yeah,
That's not on
yeah.
the road, isn't it? Like so, your tip for developers and builders wishing to come build on Plume, um, what's your tip for them, and what kind of support could they expect from Plume? Are there kind of marketing support? Are there grants? What's going
For
on there?
sure. For sure. Yeah, look, Plume, our customer is the builder, right? So I care about that a lot, the entire experience from start to finish. Now, the problem is you can't support everyone in the world, right? It's very hard to do. There was not enough resources. I want to. We're trying to. We're going to get more and more things. We're going to give them to the community, the builders. But what can we expect, right? Today, we spend a lot of time and effort finding resources, helping our community, right? And helping the ecosystem and builders find their audience and find their product, find their community, and build their network and build their own ecosystem, right? That's the whole point. And so when you come to Plume today, there's multiple levels of how we can do things, right? The lowest level, right, and sort of the starting point is doing a lot of marketing together, helping build the brand, generate a lot of hype, right, and introduce the story to other people, right? And starting with our community, but also other communities, right? That's the number one. Number two, more hands-on, right? Doing things like grants, of course, right, and doing more hands-on work to sort of help introduce to, whether it's capital providers, whether it's users, right, whether it's partners of ours, and putting people together, right? We have a whole builders chat that people are kind of coming into constantly. And then the most extreme, right, and the most hands-on is when we do a much more advanced thing. We have the ecosystem fund that we have more hands-on builder stuff where we really come in and get very, very close with the teams and help them design their product, their tokenomics, all the regulatory stuff, and we really lend a lot of our resource to the team and things that we've made mistakes on or screwed up. We help them solve those problems. So you don't have to spend time wasting time talking to lawyers and all kind of. We'll just tell you what to do. I know exactly what to do. We'll fix it and keep going, right? So that to me is like what we do with the support on the builder side. And then of course on the last piece, we have a whole suite of tools, right, for everybody. So both software tools that we've built, right, but also tools from our partners, right? We have the aviation program. So if you want to use any of our partner projects in the ecosystem, you get a discount by coming to us, right? Or you get it for free, or we can make it happen, right? So I think that's ultimately what it is, right? Like, again, our goal is to support every builder out there, whether you're building on Plume or not, right? Of course, I want everyone to build on Plume, but look, again, our orientation is to grow crypto. So we want to help people make it easier. So that's software tools to grow the audience that can build here, and then different pipelines and sort of like, guardrails so that when you are building, we can help navigate in the right way, avoid these potholes, like you said, right? And help it make it easy, right, to be successful. Because ultimately, the developer success on Plume is our success. That's what we care about.
I think this is it, roughly. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Chris, or are we okay?
Yeah, no, all good, all good. No, look, I think at the end of the day, like, thanks for having us today, and the thing that for us, there's a lot happening both today and tomorrow and in the future for RWAs, and so I just stay tuned with Twitter we're always on Telegram, so ping us anytime. But just looking forward to what you're doing, Jack. I think there's a ton of work to be done here, right? Like you said. I think you even doing this is the same mentality as us. We want to grow crypto, right? And how do you grow crypto? You got to tell people, you have to educate, you got to showcase different things and make this a thing. And so I think we're all tackling the same problem in different ways. And so I'm always excited to see more people doing stuff in here that can help grow this ecosystem that we're all a part of.
Thank you for viewing another episode of DEGN Talk, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Awesome. Thanks for having us. See ya.